Alô, 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 alô. Cara, alô, alô. Isso aqui não tá. Não ligou, tem que ligar um lugar? Alô, 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 alô. Alô, alô, alô. Alô, muito bem. Se tu tocar alguma coisa aí. Ah, ah, ah. Muito bem. Bom, mas tu quer botar o teu computador, né?
Aí. Hello, 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 hello. Eu acho que tá saindo, acho que tá saindo. Ô, galera, só um pouquinho, vocês não tá testando o áudio, ver se tá saindo aqui na parada. Só. Alô, 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 alô. Alô, 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 alô. Agora tá saindo. Ó, 10 segundos. Não, beleza? Não, mas eu já convidei ele, só um pouquinho, só um pouquinho. Um viewer é tu, só um pouquinho, só um pouquinho. Aí. Tira a mão, pô. Tinha botado aqui, ó. Botei. Deixa eu mandar de novo, porque eu mandei lá pro cara. É, invite.
Não, acho que tem que ser o Gmail, cara.
Hum.
Pede o Gmail pra ele. Gmail.
Deixa eu ver, alô, 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 alô. Hello, hello, hello. Hello, Ivan. Can you hear me? Hello. Hello, hello, hello. Can you hear me? Uh, I think I can hear you now. Ivan, can you say something?
All right. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, I can.
Great. So I already started the streaming. So if we open the link, on the YouTube should already be. All right, I can overhear you on the phone. So cool. Yeah. So we're already live here, Ivan.
All right, cool. Give me 5 more minutes and I'll be back.
All right, 5 minutes. Hi, everybody. For those who are overhearing this, we should be starting in 10 minutes or so. So thanks for attending. Just a few more minutes and we will get started with Ivan's presentation, okay?
Alô, 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 caralho. Ei, ei, alô, caralho. Alô, tudo bem? Ah, ah, alô, ei, eu sei. Ei, caramba. Ei, alô, ei. Muito bem. Daí a primeira dá pra levar assim, né? Porque dele. Ei. Isso aí. Sim. All right. 5 more minutes and we should be getting started with our presentation from Ivan, okay? Montei. Ei. Ah. Ei. É importante ver se tá bom o áudio. Alô, yes. Ei. One more testing. Ei. Alô. Ei. One more testing. Testing. Yeah. Alô. Yeah. Can you hear me fine?
Yeah, I can hear you, Rodrigo.
Can you hear me fine?
I can. Can you guys hear me?
We can hear you fine, guy. Thank you.
So good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Sitecore User Group Brazil. Today we'll have two presentations. The first one is going to be done by Ivan Omorac. He's the director of engineering at Brainjocks, and he will be presenting some very interesting things about SCORE. And after that, I will be presenting about the new Sitecore publishing service. So first of all, I'd like to thank Brainjocks for sponsoring this event. And without further ado, I'll hand over this to Ivan. So Ivan, that's with you.
All right. Thank you, Diego, for introduction. Hello, everyone. And I think this is I'm honored to be in front of you today to attend the Brazilian Sitecore user group. And before I start, I want to ask: is this like the main and the best and the biggest Brazilian Sitecore user group, or there are more than this one? Can you guys hear me?
Ivan, actually, that's the only user group in Brazil.
All right. Good to know. All right. So as Diego said, today I will be presenting you a couple of very interesting features of the SCORE, I would say, framework / accelerator. For the ones who've never heard of SCORE, it is our product, Brainjocks product, that we developed for Sitecore to fulfill a couple of, I would say, to enhance Sitecore in a way that it will bring a little bit faster start for developers and also later on content editors to use SCORE in their implementations and websites. So before I dive into the topic of today's presentation, which are the reusable components, I would like to tell you a little bit about SCORE and how the SCORE actually became what it is today. The early development when we started SCORE, we began it in the times when Sitecore 6.0 was released. And at that time, we wanted to make SCORE to help us with our internal development streams. So it included reusable API, some of the root templates, a couple of pipelines. It was focused very heavily on page editor first technology. Then we started thinking about how to implement multi-tenant support, how to create reusable components. After when Sitecore 7.2 was released, we started thinking and implementing atomic construction. We also open source MVC area code to Sitecore to consume. And at the symposium in 2014, we released the version 1.3 with the also training program and solution template with it. At that time, we got our first 2 sales before the end of the show. The next release and iteration was the SCORE 2.0. We released support for Sitecore 8.0. We also were first to implement page editor share the final support. In 2.1, we came up with SCORE CCF, which stands for SCORE Component Communication Framework, which allows multiple components to communicate with each other. 2.5 brought the community tiles and search capability. And for SCORE 3.0, which we're targeting for Symposium 2017, we are currently under the development process, and hopefully we will be able to release it around that time. Today, SCORE is an accelerator, and much more than that. Today, SCORE is not just a website in the box. It provides a complete, very thorough development framework. It also delivers very lightweight and very extensible architecture for supporting multi-tenancy and having multiple websites deployed to the same Sitecore instance. Score offers also very ease of use for content editors. So we are trying to implement what you see is what you get as much as we can in order to get content editors to actually see what they are trying to do with compiling and creating the pages. It also supports automation tools. It eases the learning curve and also removes additional complexity when it comes to both development and the maintenance of the final solutions. And at the end, what is important for us developers, it offers very rich API on both ends, back end and the front end. Here are some of the Score facts that I would like to share with you. So we support Sitecore versions as a product. Score today, Score is a product which we support all the Sitecore versions that are higher than release 7.2. It is covered with around 1,200 unit tests with almost 90% of code coverage. Score today is distributed as a 3 NuGet package product. It contains Score, which is a base part and contains all the pipelines, events, data templates, which can be then used for either extending it or having it for usage out of the box, from the box. Score UI supports CCF, gives support for CCF, and Score Bootstrap UI have around 120 components today that are built on top of the Twitter Bootstrap. As I said, Score is multi-tenancy friendly, and what also brings to the table is atomic design concept, which I would like to talk just a little bit before we dive into the demo. One of the aspects of atomic design is to have to editors to have flexibility to do the content management, administration, and also helps with the content authoring experience in general. It brings a clear path how to reuse renderings, data templates for development teams. It's very adaptive to any design that you can have in your day-to-day work. It's a page editor first approach, and also atomic design helps end users to use as much as marketing automation features possible. Benefits of atomic design is to build first, design later. So very often in the projects that are using Score, we are trying to run three streams simultaneously. So content entry, design, our front end work with stylings, and also back end development. Makes teams a lot more modular. It offers more option when it comes to extensions and creating modules for distribution, and also promotes consistency and provides very common design language that can be followed on more than just the one website that we are trying to do for our end clients. So the topics of today presentation will be snippet styles and cascading placeholders. So I will try to explain a little bit more what each one of those means with also a demo through our Brainjocks demo website. So and let's start with the snippets first. The snippet is a part of the page. It can be any part of the page that we would like to reuse. It can be a header, footer, carousel, tab set, or even it can be a composition of multi-elements on the page. Snippet is built to be reusable. What is in atomic design, that means it's very similar to what organism is. So if we start from the atoms, that can be, let's say, buttons or small content text spots, then we can move to organisms, which can be several of them paired together, actually molecules, and then organisms can contain more of those molecules and create more complex structures on the page. Snippets can be made of renderings, content, and marketing automation procedures as a personalization that comes with the Sitecore, and also multivariant testing. And today, Snippet has three main parts. There is a very specific tenant layout with appropriate page templates, tenant folder, and two Snippet components that I would like to show. So let's go back a little bit. And can you guys hear me well so far? And see my screen? I would say yes. No? Maybe? All right. I hope you guys can hear me. Okay, that means yes. All right, let's move. Let's move. All right, so this is the page, the website that we like to demo. We used Brainjocks on our symposium meetings, and also I'm using Brainjocks to show a couple of score features that our clients, future clients, like to see. So in front of me, I have a front page, which consists of, let's say, 95% of score components that are then additionally styled. So there is a header on top. You can see the carousel with 3 carousel panes. These are score link buttons, and so on and so forth. I don't want to waste our time to go through entire, but this is the general concept of how, let's say, page can look like with applying only score components on it. So in order to show you how Snippet works, I would like to do 2 things. So let's say here, just right above our panel center text, I would like to create a component that's going to be, let's say, 2-column equal. And in the left side, I want to add a YouTube video. On the right side, the Google Maps component. And then what I want to do, I want to extract the content of that particular portion of the page and pronounce it as a snippet. So let me do this. On the left side, let's do YouTube video. Okay. And I want to look and search for the video that does have Adriana Lima in it. Let's say, why not? Everybody likes Adriana Lima. So let's see what first is going to show up. So this is also one of the features of the score. We created a couple of custom fields, and YouTube picker is one of them. So on the right-hand side, I want to create a map. Okay. And look for Florianopolis. I promised Diego that I'm going to visit Florianopolis one day. Maybe this year, who knows? All right. Florianopolis, and say, okay. This is also one of the fields custom fields that we created for selecting coordinates for the map. So if I want to preview this page now, see what we did. We have Adriano on the left and Florianopolis on the right. Perfect. Okay, so the snippets. Let's say we created this piece of content and we want to reuse it on, let's say, 10 pages. If I want to do that, and clicking by the inner structure to column equal component, there will be on the left side save component with all nested elements as a snippet. So there are actually two ways how to create snippets. One is, like I'm just showing, what we'll do, it will extract the entire content of the page, of the portion of the page with the data sources, and created it under the snippets folder under the Brainjocks main website. So if I look for the Lima snippet, this is where it is. And then from here, I can then edit or change it according to, if I want to. But I don't want to. I want to reuse that snippet. And I don't need this anymore. And I want to add it on the page, but this time to be reference, to be just reference. So I don't want to use it. I don't want to have it on the page itself, but I want to reference that snippet that we just created. So Lima snippet is the one that we want to do. So what's going to do, it's going to point to our item in the snippets folder and render it for us. Don't ask me why the map is not here. It probably has something to do with the experience editor, but if we save the page, the snippet is being rendered in its own context, and by clicking here, we can then go dive and edit it if we want to. All right, so after the save, everything is cool. And in the preview, we can also see the same result. Now, there are situations when content editors wants to create some kind of like a pattern situation of arrange the components in a way that we can do literally copy paste of the same content into different pages and then modify them according to our needs. So we can do that as well. In the way how that will work is to add the snippet and run it as a snippet macro. So what this function and this component actually will do, it will copy everything that lives under our Lima snippets, all the maps and the videos, and it will actually bring it to the page for further changes or use. All right. Let's save page and leave it as it is. So in order to show you just a little bit more about snippets, there is also a way to create snippets out from scratch. So under the snippets, I would like to, let's say, create, let's see, let's see. Okay, see, this is our second snippet. And since, as I said, snippet uses its own layout and also special template, which is inherited from the actual score snippet, here we can also dive and create structures that we would like to reuse further on. There are a couple of cool features that snippet offers. Is we can select the snippet layout if we want to see and look how the snippet is going to be rendered in the full full width of the screen, or when it's tall or regular size. We can also activate alternative snippet context and see how the snippet is going to be rendered on some of the pages in our content tree. So these are also nice features and the options that we have on our disposal. Okay. The next thing that I would like to cover would be tiles. So basically, a tile presents a content that can be shared across the multiple pages on our website, and we can maintain and manage that content in one place. So also, tile gives us the ability to create reusable content in the context of the attached page, and also insert that particular tile on some other pages in our. So it's basically very similar what Snippet does, but it will be more clear when I dive into the demo, and you will see a little resemblance of what actually tile means. There are 3 tiles given by default in Score: default, autocomplete, and search result. They're actually very self-explanatory. The autocomplete we use for defining the reusable piece of the content that can be used in the autocomplete dropdown. And the search result is then used for producing the HTML that's going to be pushed to, let's say, some searching index and searching index, so like Lucene or Solar and even Algolia. We've used tiles with Algolia in the past. The tile folder, as I said, there are 3 types given by default, and the type folder is created underneath an item each time when we add a page or when we add it to the standard fields. The items are rendered when a tile items are rendered when tile item is added to the page. We can use 3 types of components to render the certain tile on the page: featured page tile link, and page tile title. So let me show you an example on how tiles can be very, very useful in certain situations. This is the search page for the Brainjocks, which is also constructed by using Score components. On the top, we have a search input, and on the main page, on the right-hand side, there are a list of products that are being rendered. If we click on a quick view, there's going to be a portion of the product that we can find out a little bit more about it, and also cycle through a couple of tab sets, which will actually change the image gallery as well. On the left side, there is a faceting search Score component, and you can see in certain positions on the page there are special like feature content items. Now you can try to guess that if, let's say, we navigate to the product itself, this is the product detail page with very similar capabilities, although here we have a little bit more information about the product, but the gallery on the left and selections, product selections are still here. Each product page in this case have a couple of tiles attached. And I will be showing this shortly. Okay. So let's navigate to one of those pages. Let's do, let's say, dessert wine Madeira, 2010. So the product page in this case have its product variations, some of the attributes, images. But we're going to be focused not just on the content, which is the product detail page, but the part that goes on the top, which says View Tiles. Here we can see those 3 tiles that we would like to use in our case. Autocomplete, this is a quick view tile, which we show each time when we click on the quick view. And also there is a search result tile, which has a product, how it's going to look like when we pull the search out. So through here, we can add more tiles. We could edit the existing tiles in the same way as any other score component. So this is the image. There is a product flag component. This is a product tile quick, product title, and product tier. We can also, if we want, we can go ahead and add other renderings to the tile set. And what it's essentially tile at the end is a snippet. Now, the difference between tiles and the snippets is that with having tiles organized on the pages, we can easily extract its content and deliver them to either maybe some kind of third-party consumer, or in the case on the Brainjocks, we can have them displayed on other portions of the pages programmatically. So each of these results are actually coming from Lucene index with the HTML added as one of the fields. Okay, I hope it makes sense so far. I will stop here and just ask if you guys have any questions so far, or should I move forward?
No questions here. Online, just checking online to see if anyone online has any questions. Just a second, Ivan.
Okay.
Yeah, we do have an online question. 1 second.
Mm-hmm.
Ivan, recently Sitecore has announced SXA becoming free, or actually part of the license of Sitecore itself. My question is how that changes strategically the way Score positions itself in the market. If it changes anything in the plans in the short or medium term for Brainjocks.
For now,
reacting.
Okay, that's a good question. For now, it doesn't change a lot on the short term. We still have to evaluate the impact of such decision, but Score is a very mature product today. We have our very long base of the clients. We invest a lot in keeping up with the most recent Sitecore updates, and we are very careful with implementing the best practices that Sitecore convey. So Score today doesn't change anything what Sitecore does out from the box. It is just an upgrade to existing features of Sitecore. So we will see. For now, it doesn't change a lot for us. We will keep going as before.
All right, that's the only question you got here, Ivan. You can proceed.
Okay. All right. So some of the things that tiles can do, and I will try to demo this by using a couple of tile feature components. So here we can add our tiles as features to the pages. So let's say I want to have a tile that's going to component that's going to present some of our tiles that we have on the product pages, we can easily do that. This particular component will allow us to create and actually select which page we want to use in order to harvest one of its tiles. So if I go and select our Madeira 2010 wine, I would like to use, let's say, search result tile. Hopefully this will work. I haven't tested this. This is the first time that I'm doing this on this level. Okay, and let's do a preview and see what's going to happen. Okay, so this is our tile that's going to be rendered below the map. So you can imagine different types of different usage of such flexibility. And what we've learned, and so far in our projects, this helps very much. It brings a lot of help to our content editors at the end, and how they actually minimize the effort of recreating the same components all over again, and it organized the content tree in a much better way than before. Okay. So the next topic I have for today would be the cascading placeholders. And this is also one of the very interesting features when it comes to reusability of components and the content on multiple pages. This feature what actually allows our editors to push placeholder content down the site hierarchy. It means that we can select a certain portion of the page, and which is the actual placeholder, and make it cascadable. It means that every single page item that lives under under that page will collect the content from that placeholder. Receiving pages can still add content to that same placeholder above cascaded elements. And what you can do also, you can recascade placeholders, which is also a very, very interesting feature to do. For now, cascading is not supported on standard values because of the obvious reasons. Maybe in future we will tackle that as well, but for now, my next actual small demo will be to show how cascading placeholders can be useful in assembling the pages. So on the top of our homepage, you can see there is a snippet that actually inserts the header component with its mega menu. Now, if you go one step above, we can see that the above page content placeholder is actually cascaded. So with having the this entire placeholder cascaded, each page that is, let's say, that lives under the home page will have cascaded element added to it. And it's clearly written that this is cascaded element home, so it comes from the home page. We can edit it, but we can still, in the above page content, we can still add components to it. So this will be all from me at this point, and I will be open for any questions that you guys might have.
Thank you very much, Ivan. So just looking here, whether we have any questions. One question that we got here, Ivan,
Mhm.
whether this supports the Helix, best practices.
So today we work with a client that created their enterprise layer based on the Helix best practices. So my answer is yes. There is no limitation on how you want to use Core at the end. As I said, Score is distributed through 3 NuGet packages, and it means that you can very easily create your CI environment if needed, and have it as a part of your end project in whichever way you want to construct it. So same goes with using Score with any, let's say, different ways of, let's say, SaaS. You can use SaaS or less, or you can use a knockout. You can use Angular with it. You can. I personally did both on together with Score components. We haven't got across of situation when we had to say, oh, you know what, in this particular example project, you cannot use Core. There are certain dependencies. For example, in order to make, to have Score components to work, they require JS. For example, we use match height as one of the libraries to match the height of the boxes in the product, and I cannot think of any other like requirement that is today that you have to follow. But we keep Score to be very simple, extendable, and easy to use for both ends, developers and end users.
Hey, Ivan, Vinicius here. I have a question regarding for content authors. Do you have any, I don't know, maybe how well the Brain Score improves the life for content authors?
So do you mean like the live examples of the websites built with Score, or just like in general how it improves their everyday life?
Yeah, in general.
So there are two. I like to think about people who are using Sitecore. I like to think of them in 2 different groups. The ones that are used to content entry approach, to build everything in a very old-fashioned way, so that you have to follow certain rules, you have to follow certain methodology of how you want to add renderings, how do things manually throughout the rendering view. And then you have users who did some work or content entry in the experience editor mode. We approach each of those groups equally at the start. So every person who is going to use Score at the end, they go through our training in order to adopt the methodology and the whole principle of how to name data sources, where to store data sources, what are the options that you have. For example, green folders for local content, red folders for multi-websites, blue folders for sharing it across the page items under the same site. Teach them how to assemble the content, and it's a learning curve. At first, there are a lot of things you have to understand of how page layouts are, what can you do with page layouts, how to nest inner structurals, which components have which rendering parameters that you can use. So it depends a lot on experience, previous experience and exposure to Sitecore in general, and then we just upgrade them to the level that they are comfortable with using Score. We haven't had problems with teaching our clients how to use it, but it can vary from couple of weeks, from 1 week or a couple of weeks, depending on the case.
So Ivan, we got another question here. I'll be asking on behalf of Edico here. So essentially, what he's trying to figure out is whether snippets support personalization, just like Sitecore out of the box when you're working.
Yes. Answer is yes. Yeah. Like any other component.
Yep. Okay. One more.
For the developer perspective, what kind of does Score, for instance, provides a model for solutions, imposes any kind of architecture pattern, and what kind of tools does it provide to the developer himself? I'll give some examples. For instance, code generation, extensions, what kind of things to improve to easy the day-by-day life of a developer.
Okay. So with each new project, I hope you guys see my screen now because I switched to the my virtual machine. This is the example for.
Sorry,
Yes.
Can you just zoom in a little bit?
Oh, I can try. That's gonna be. All right. Let me see.
Work, then we'll try with that one.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Is it better?
Yep.
Okay.
Right.
So this is the example of like a freshly new scaffolded website. So let's say you as a developer, you have to start with a new project. So how to start. Where to what to do first. There are two pieces of the puzzle. One is to scaffold the solution itself, and then the other follow-up task is to scaffold the tenant itself. So I can just really quick go through both of them. So what you see in front of me is is how, for example, a site called My Site, which is a part of my solution, would look like. So there are like 4 or 5 parameters that you enter, and what the process is going to do for you, it's going to create couple of class libraries, TDS projects, and also the web solution. And you can see the areas part where the My Site then will have its own part where you're going to start creating controllers. There will be a SAS folder with adding your definitions. It's going to also contain Bootstrap SAS files for any kind of modification that you want to do along the way. There is a part for Score, and also all the site-specific Score components that you want to style later on. The views part is where you naturally is going to start. You're going to look and create your views. My Site area registration, where you're going to register your routes, models for adding models, and web configs for any kind of additional tweaks. Environments, on the other hand, will have its place which is tied with the build profiles in order to create multiple configuration patches to Sitecore. And this is basically the start. The layout itself, I don't know how much time do we have, but the later will do some of the heavy lifting. So it will load your dependencies through require config.js, and also add necessary placeholders for the quick start of the project. Now, when it comes to multi-tenancy, now you can notice that what we like to tell to our clients, and also what we do internally, each website has its own solution. There are many reasons why, and they're very, very tightly coupled with how the CI should be set up, so that with light governance, you can have a control on how these actual websites are going to be deployed one day to the same Sitecore instance. So this is the part when it comes to solution. Just try to zoom it out. And when it comes to the tenant itself, creating tenant will run set of PowerShell scripts that will give you the ability to already define homepage selections out from the box, so that you can kick the tires quickly. A couple of colors and styles for us to modify, and also it will create some of the necessary parts in the layouts for the renderings, models. So once you synchronize back your tenant that we just created, and it's very easy thing to do actually. There is a new Sitecore tenant option that will do this all for you. You will synchronize it back to your project, and you're ready to go. I hope that gives you a little bit more details on the architecture side of it.
Rodrigo's thinking here, Ivan, it answers his questions. Any other questions?
Okay.
Online, right? No questions online. So
okay.
Yeah, thank you very much, Ivan. I myself can say that I've been using Score on our project, and it really helps the life of the developer. Like you can set it up a whole solution in a website running like just a few minutes. It's really impressive. I was really impressed when I started working at Brainjocks, because other than making your life easier, it's fast to use. So I'm really impressed with it myself. So yeah, thanks for showing that, Ivan.
No problem. I hope you guys enjoy it.
Well, big round of applause for you, sir. Well deserved.
Thank you. You guys have a full house there. That's amazing.
Yeah. So, whoa, just another one. Yeah, another Sitecore developer just got here. So, we'll take a short break, up to 5 to 10 minutes, just so we can restart here, so I can start my presentation. So stay tuned. In the meantime, guys, we're sharing on Twitter SUG-BR hashtag. So any photos, any questions, you can post it there, and we'll try to answer them as much as we can. Okay. So we'll be on mute, but we should be back soon.
Okay.
Quick question. Ivan, can you hear me? Can anyone online hear me? Or am I talking to myself here?
Yes, yes, I can hear you.
All right, cool. All right, so I'm not talking to myself. All right, so we should be starting in just 1 more minute. Just 1 second, everybody. We're having some sharing screen. Apparently, on the streaming, it's still not showing. Let's just try to address this real quick.
Say something, Diego.
Okay, let's see if it's already sharing. Apparently, the stream is still not showing. Ivan, can you see my screen?
Yeah, I can see your screen.
All right. I'm still trying to figure out why on the live stream it's not showing.
Pois é,
Okay, just 1 more second, folks. A little bit of patience here. We're just trying to figure out here. Apparently only one monitor here works. Oh, it's gonna work. I think it's gonna work.
Pera aí.
Stay tuned, everybody.
Foi.
Does it work? All right. So yes, sorry everyone about that. We had some technical difficulties here with the sharing, but looks like we are on shape now, and everybody online can see it. So first of all, again, let's if you missed what I just said, we're any questions you might have, just ask them on hashtag SUG-BR, SUG-BR, and we will answer it at the end of this presentation. So my name is Diego Moretto. As you can see here, that's my username, password B. And this presentation actually was inspired on Stephen Pope's presentation. He works at the Sitecore product team, and he worked on the development of the publishing service. And we talked here, and we saw that the community was trying, wanted to know a little bit better about what the publishing service really is. So we decided to prepare this presentation for you. So as I said, my name is Diego Moretto. I am a senior Sitecore developer at Brainjocks. You can find me on Twitter and Slack. Um, I'm also one of the co-founders of the Sitecore User Group Brazil. And most recently, I've been awarded with the Sitecore 2017 MVP. And yeah, that's enough for introductions. All right. That's probably one question that most people have when we start talking about the publishing service and the publishing model. We'll get to the explanation of what the publishing service is and what the publishing module is, but at the end of the day, is a new publishing for Sitecore, and a lot of people ask this question: why even remaking? Like, does the existing Sitecore publishing capabilities, is it not good enough, right? Is there a reason why this needs to be remade? So let's start talking about UI first. So okay, you trigger the publishing, right? The first thing you get is this dialogue. It's gonna tell you, what database is being published, the language, items get processed, and you get this number going up and up. And really, what does that mean? For a user, for an end user, that does not really tell how many items are going to get processed and when it will finish. They just know that looking at those numbers that are going up, at some point it will end, right? But they can't really tell how much time that is going to take. The second thing is when you have multiple content authors working at the same instance, and you have multiple publishing triggers at the same time. The first one starts publishing, the second one just gets this pop-up saying it's queued. So that's okay, but what if you need something urgent? Like, the user does not really know what's going on, how much time that queue is going to be, is going to take to be processed. The user does not get that feedback, so you will end up with users like this, like, okay, it's queued. I myself saw this a few days ago, and there was something urgent on production. The client was giving a lot of heat on us, saying, this needs to be cleared, and we just saw this queued here. So unfortunately, there are ways around that, but if you're talking about content author users who are not really technical, they don't really get to address that unless they know Sitecore really well and how to avoid that, right? So that's for the UI, but there are other issues. There are other aspects of it as well. For example, the publishing mechanism of Sitecore is one of the oldest parts of Sitecore. It's dated of 10 years old already. It's over 10 years old. It did had improvements, but really, when it was built considering websites of 10 years ago. And the web changed in 10 years, Sitecore especially changed in 10 years, but that piece really did not follow that. And that comes down to the sizes of the websites that were being built 10 years ago and the size of websites that we have today. So now we have a lot of websites moving to the cloud. We have new set of requirements, hardware processing, geolocated websites, and that does not really scale well. So, and another issue that we do have is the way the processing really works. So the way this works is when Sitecore is publishing, it will read item by item, field by field, one at a time. So it's a very granular processing. So you have items to be read. Each field it will read. If you're publishing related items, each of these related items you have to read its fields. You have to read the security item by item. Standard value is the same thing. So the processing really is a very granular thing, and you get a lot of this calls to the databases being done just to process this one by one, right? And that becomes even a larger issue when you have multiple targets, when you have multiple languages. Each target is again published, processed individually, all of these items individually, all of its fields individually. Language is the same thing. So you do get this, as I just said, this very granular processing. Another issue is, this is a very common scenario. You're publishing something, and out of the blue, something goes wrong, right? And then you have, the publishing breaks. You get a message saying, you could not finish. But what happens to the data that got processed, right? It's already been moved to the target database, right? Normally to a web database. And you might be thinking, well, yeah, it broke, so it's not going to clear the caches and anything. But again, at the end of the day, you get half content on a database, normally a live database, a production database, that you wanted it to be consistent, and you don't have that. So you don't have this transactional behavior, or if you want, anything goes wrong, you want to roll back, you want to the previous state. But one might argue, yes, but we can, create backups, we can restore. Yeah, that's a very good workaround. But really, Sitecore does not provide you with a way around that, the tool itself, right? One other aspect of the existing publishing mechanism is, when you're trying to scale your instances, you may end up with the scenario where you want to have like a dedicated publishing service to try to improve your performance, which is okay, but if you're willing to pay for that, because that can be expensive. If you want to have a dedicated publishing instance, you have to pay for a full Sitecore license. What does that mean? It means that it's, at the end of the day, you're trying to address a scalability issue by paying for another license, right? So it can get really expensive. I think this is already clear, already mentioned, but when you're dealing with geolocated targets, you are in trouble if you have very big volumes of data, because of course this publishing is not an issue if you have just a few dozen items, maybe 100 items on your content tree. This may not be the presentation for you, but if you have a big corporation, you have clients all over the world, you're scaling to the cloud, you want servers all over the globe, publishing might be a bottleneck for your website. And one of the reasons also is that the data provider, Sitecore data provider, really was designed to deliver content, not to push content across the wire. So it serves really well when you want to move, when you want to render your content, when you do all these things that Sitecore does really well. But when it comes to getting data from your source databases, your master database, is moving to a web target, the data provider really is not really designed for that. So just to recap here, I think it's clear, but really the problem is when you're dealing with large volumes of data and you're trying to move this across the wire. That's where you might want to be thinking on alternatives for your publishing, right? So Sitecore built the publishing service on a few foundation aspects that I'll be quickly covering here with you. The first of which, it needs to be small. It is small. So really what it does is it tries to do one thing and one thing well, which is moving content from from your source to your targets. It does have its own separate process, so it's processed separately. You will see that the publishing is a dedicated service. Normally you could run it on a console app, you can run it on iOS, on Azure, but it's it's a separate application that takes care of the publishing and tries to do that and just that thing well, trying to use as much as it can, the resources, trying to improve CPU, memory usage. And because it's small, and because you will see when I get to one of the slides when I'm talking about cloud, how this can scale well. One other foundation of this service is it tries to do as much work upfront as it can. So just now I mentioned that when publishing go wrong, uh, most of the problems that happens is due to misconfiguration, or anything broken within stuff within that nature. So what the new publishing service does is try to do as much pre-processing as possible, and I'll explain to you in a second when I would talk about manifests. But you can think of it as trying to see, for example, um, published restrictions. Items that have publishing restrictions do not get published, so why even bother processing them, right? Why even processing items that are in workflow states that are not approved yet? So tries to figure out these, what really needs to be processed, and create these manifests, and I'll show you this in a sec. And the other thing is it reduces significantly the number of calls it makes to a database by working in batches. So with this manifests, what the publishing service will do, it will read the configuration, the number of items it will process in batch. For example, by default it's 500, and it will process 500 items at a time. Languages, it will read once. It will publish targets in parallel. So a lot, but all in batches. So to kind of get this, reduce the number of calls you're making in the database. And you'll see in a sec why this is important. Well, I just mentioned it here, but you do get the ability of the parallel publishing, as I just mentioned it. One thing that it's on the slides really important is publishing items versus media, because right now the way Sitecore works is it will publish the items and then the media, right? With the new publishing service, it will publish both in parallel, which kind of gets a little on performance. And the last one is addressing the transactional publishers. This is, well, we're working with SQL Server, sorry, which already supports that. So why not benefit from it? So each target has its own transaction. So anything goes wrong within that target publishing, you just roll back that target. Of course, if all of them break, then you roll back the whole operation, but you don't end up in a scenario where part of your content is and part of your content is not. So right, so there are 4 concepts here, and I will ask you not to fall asleep because I'll have to cover them. Really important. These are really the foundations of the publishing service. Oops, I was supposed to cover one by one, but we already have 4 of them here. So, all right, so the publishing job really is, so if the user, for example, previously used it to publish something, the publishing dialog remained open, for the duration, for the whole period of where it was being published. It could be awkward, for example, for an experienced user then accidentally close the publishing. You might ask themselves like, okay, is the publishing still going on? What is happening? Like, did I lose my publish or something like that? So the publishing job takes place, on creating the publishing and queuing it, and that's it. So it queues, and then it goes to the next topic, which is the manifest. So the manifest, you can think of it as a collective name for all the tasks that the publishing will do. Everything that is going to get published and processed will be defined on those manifests. So the publishing service calculates the manifest at the beginning of this publishing job before it even moves in data. Then it looks at the items to see if there are any restrictions that I just mentioned, workflow, publishing restrictions, and etc. And then it goes to the next part, which is the publishing itself. Sitecore called it promotion, but I guess the word already kind of explains itself. Is when you promote data from from source to target. And at the end of the publishing, you get your manifest results. So you can think of it as a list of changes that were done during the promotion of the manifests. This would include things like the item names that were changed, templates, and when it is done, a Sitecore will push these manifest results into a pipeline that you as a developer can hook into it and do some custom processing. Normally, I don't know, update a third-party system or do some custom logging or anything that you want to do. It's a very common thing. Developers ask this a lot. Okay, I'm customizing something on the publishing. When will I be doing this? Hooking up into the pipeline exposed once the manifest results are there. So, oops, just change the slide here real quick. This slide was made available by Sitecore, and I think this kind of pictures a little bit on how the publishing really work. So let's just say that you have 100 items that you're trying to publish. After it's been queued, it will build what the manifest that I just explained to you. And when it's done, the manifest now have a list of what to process, and it starts promoting the data from the source to the target. And then at the end, it will raise the published batch result pipeline, which, if you're curious, it's going to be under app config include Sitecore publishing service config, which gets installed with the Sitecore publishing package. Right, so there you can also change the size of the batches that you get and really customize it. All right, so okay, I'm convinced. Now, if I want to install it, how would I go about that? So the first thing you want to think about is where you want to run it. Right, when I demo to you, I'll be demoing it running on a a console app, but you can host it on IIS. And if you do, you will need to install the Windows Service hosting, which comes with Netcore. Okay, so Netcore, this service was built on top of Netcore. So, and it's really interesting because if you check on the package, it comes with everything that it really needs to run it. So this small package that I was talking about is really come with Netcore and all the dependencies that you might need. Yeah. So also, this is available on Sitecore 8.2 Update 1 Plus. So all of the recent releases of Sitecore do support that. Upgrade schema. Now, this is a very interesting thing. So when you are working with an out-of-the-box Sitecore instance, you need, as part of the installation, you need to upgrade your schema, your database schema. So I will show you in a sec. So let me just open here my console app. Oops, I gotta move this to the other monitor so everybody can see it. And hopefully you can all see this really well. So, okay. All right. So this is the website, the folder where I have the publishing service installed. So there is an application here that we're gonna use, Sitecore Frame. Host. So we have a framework that has a kind of commands available. You know, when you're setting up, you can set up your connection strings here. You can set up basically your service and how it's going to hook up into your Sitecore website. You can use this. It's well documented in the official documentation. But for now, I just want to show you the schema. So here is the schema of the databases that I will be showing on my website. I have a habitat solution here, and what you might be looking here is these two columns. So available and installed. What this is really telling us is that these databases here, Mastercard and Web, already have the latest and greatest. But what does that really mean? It means this. So I'll open Management Studio and just wait for a second or two. There we go. So now, oops. Okay, so take a look here. What does it look like here? This is an out-of-the-box Sitecore master database schema, right? These are the tables. Now let's look at the habitat, which, as I just said, it got upgraded. Here, you see these tables here? They are new. They are part of this upgrade. So when you're installing the service and you want to run it on your instance, you need to upgrade. So it has these tables here. And you will see in a sec why this is really important. The next slide is, well, in my case here, I'll be running this demo on the command app, on console app. So it will be running on the 5000 port. So this is the path you want to see whether this publishing service is properly set up or not. So when you go to a path like this, so for example, if you have it running on IaaS, you would just replace localhost 5000 with your address, but you should get like a status column 0. That means the publishing service is really working. And to see that in action, okay, enough talking. Is this enough talking? Let's see. Oh yeah, sorry, I will show you this, but let me just talk a little bit about the publishing model, and then I'll show you the demo. So the first thing is publishing module. This is a Sitecore package. All you have to do when you have the publishing servicing working is install the Sitecore package. It does have instructions on how to set up. Basically, it's a Sitecore installer. There isn't much to it. Just at the end of the publishing, the installing, you have to create a config file patch. You wait for the wizard to install it. When it's done, you just create that patch file that I just mentioned, and hopefully, let's see that in action. Let's see a demo, okay? So going back here, I will just quickly show you this. Can you see that this is not working because the service is not running, right? So now let's just quickly start the service. But when I'm starting it, keep in mind one thing. So when you're, as I said, I'm running this on common prompt, but I will be running this on a development mode. What does that mean? If I don't specify any parameters, if I just run the host command here, it will start it as if I was on prod. So you really don't get to see what's happening under the hood. You just see this, and you get some logging, like a production level of logging. Now, if we want to have it running on a development mode, you have to specify that. So it's going to be environment. Hopefully there's no typos there. Let's see, there we go. Now it's running on dev mode. So you can see here that now we have debug level of logging. It's telling us that it's running, on this address. It's, the version that it's running. So you do get more here, right? So if I come back here, this will essentially show that now the publishing is working fine. So this may sound a little bit complicated, but really, if you just follow the step by step, you'll see that this is really straightforward. Okay, So we see that this is working. All right. So what happens when you install the new publishing module? The first thing you will notice is you get a new button on the launchpad, the publishing. The publishing will open you a publishing dashboard. Okay. So this is the publishing dashboard. I will cover this in 1 second. I just want to quickly go back to the content editor to show you one other thing. So now the publishing tab already has a link to the dashboard. You can use call it from here. And if you're like me who likes to use content editor to publish, you will see now that if I open the dialog, it's different, right? So previously, the publishing dialog would have options like incremental, smart publishing, republish. All of that really is gone, right? Now you have, for a content author perspective, what you really get is the concept of publishing, right? Let the publishing handle how it's going to be published, whether it's smart, whether it is incremental. But for a content author, they just really care about, what I will be publishing, if we're going to be publishing related items, which language, which targets, and that's about it, right? So it's simplified to address some of those UI problems that I mentioned. But coming back here to the dashboard, this is really interesting. You can see here that there are no active jobs. There are nothing in the queue. Of course, we didn't trigger anything, but let's just see what happens when we publish. Did any of you notice? Oops, the resolution is not really good here. There we go. Did you all notice that there is a publish all items button here? This is an admin thing, okay? So only users who do have this publishing administrator role, or of course they're user administrator users, they get to see here this, because now here we have what we call repair mode and clear all data cache. You can read repair mode as republish. Okay, so if you're used to republish, if you need to do republish, you need to be an admin. So why has this been moved here? Because of a very common scenario where if you're having content authors, as I said, they're not experienced with publishing. For some reason, their content is not showing up. What they will do? Oh, I know if I know, thinking like them. Yeah, if every time I do a republish, it works. But that is expensive. That is processing. So that's why it was moved to more like an admin thing to only do that if you really need to do that, right? So coming back here, wait, where is my mouse? Here we are. All right, so let's just trigger a republish and let's see what's gonna happen, okay? You see, it's queued. That's what I was talking about. It's just been queued. And if we close here, now we see that we have an active job. What is it publishing? The language, the target. There's just one target here, right? It's the web. But what's the status of it? And in a few seconds, it should be done. What's happening really under the hood? Well, it's already done. The interface now just updated. So what happens here, it's the publishing started here. So it just passed along all the parameters, of the publishing, like the targets, the languages and everything. It created the manifest. It added, it started processing here, and you can see here the processing in batches that I was saying. So 500 at a time, so 500, 1,000, and so on and so forth. It starts processing, and at the end, it just, it called the manifest results. There is nothing hooked into it, so it just finished. This whole process took 19 seconds. That's a full republish on a Habitat solution. Normally, this would take a few minutes at least. I haven't done myself the compare, but a republish with a database that size would take at least a few minutes, and it took 19 seconds. That in that self only to me is impressive, but you will see some numbers in a few seconds. Okay, and what if I want to see what had really happened? So here's our publishing. You see, we have like a history of the recent published. You can just click on it. You essentially will see when it started, when it stopped, how much time it took, all the items that were affected. So 5,000, over 5,000, 15,000 items were processed here, right? So, right, but really, what if you really want to see all the items that were processed? Is there a way? The answer is yes. So let's just see here what's our manifest guide look like. So we have 7441. Hopefully that's the number. So we can come here on SQL Server. There's a manifest tab. Oops, sorry, click on the wrong button. It's this one. It's this, yeah. All right. So let's make a quick SQL query here. So like, let's do a select star. Oops. Where manifest ID, like, I'm sorry, this keyboard, I'm not really used to using it. So, all right, so let's just go back real quick and see what our manifest looks like. 7441, right? All right, execute. Cool. Here we are. So here are the list of the 15,000 items that were processed. So if you really want to see each of these items, you can see here, you know, the grid, the time when it was processed, you know, what really happened. So here they all are. So you get the ability of doing that. One other thing that maybe it's already clear looking at the schema, but if not, have you any of you figured out why the publishing service is faster than the regular one? It's because essentially what all we're doing here is writing directly to the database, right? We're not calling any data provider, we're not calling anything. What Sitecore is really doing is reading from the source, writing directly on these tables. So it's getting a lot of performance just by doing that. And that probably answers another question that one might have is, where should the publishing service live? For example, in one of my clients, should it be closer to the content management system? Should it be on the CDs? And the answer really is it should live as closer as it can to your databases, right? There are cases where people have it running on their database servers because it's, you know, it's faster to do this processing, right? So that's, if you're really wondering where you should be putting it, the answer is essentially, you know, the closest you can get to your databases. One other thing we might want to do is I will quickly create a new another instance here just so we can see some parallel publishing going on. So I'll just quickly trigger a publish without cache, repair mode, okay, and the other instance as well. Cool. All right, there we go. This is the publishing going on. You can see here now we have one queue job, one active one, and coming back here, we're seeing that the first one is being processed. It's done. Took 18 seconds. It's gonna start the next one in a few. There we go. It read the queue. It's already active here. Let's just give a few seconds. This one is taking a little bit longer. That's mostly my laptop. Okay, so let's take a look at the results here. So the last one just finished. Let's see how much time it took. 36 seconds. And the first one that we just triggered, 18 seconds. So why it took that much is because it was triggered and it was queued, right? Once it started publishing, then it just took that time. So that's really the new interface that we get, new publishing service. So it's simpler, but I think it it paints a picture really clear or what's going on, what are the active jobs, what's on the queue, how much time is it taking, and everything. And as I showed you, this is a very useful tool if you want to start to poking around and kind of playing with it. You get to see what's going on under the hood, right? Of course, this is more thinking on a development perspective. And these logs here are written on the same folder that you get the publishing service. So let me just quickly show you here. So if you have, just like me here, oh, there we go. So my publishing service is installed on inetpub. So you get a logs folder here, right? And the last one, it's gonna be, I don't know, I think maybe this one. I haven't really looked, but yeah, it's showing up here on my monitor. So here are the logs of the manifest and everything. So they're all here. Essentially, what we're seeing on that command application, we can see what happened on the logs. Okay. Let me see here. Yeah, we're kind of running a little bit over time, so I won't be covering too much about the comments. But if just know that there's a set of comments available for you to use on the framework. When you're installing, for example, you need to set up your connection strings in a format which is not really like a .config that you get, regular Sitecore. It is actually an XML file, so there's a format. This framework comments, you just specified what your connections are, your databases, and it will generate that for you. Let me just quickly show you how that looks like, at least just so helps understand. So that's gonna be under configs global, maybe. Let's see, I think this is the file. So as you can see here, this is essentially the connection string I was just talking about on a JSON format. This was generated by the framework when I was installing it, and that's pretty much it. One thing, you have to have this the multiple active results set to true, but it sets that. I think it sets that for you, if I'm not mistaken. Okay. Going back to our presentation now. This slide is really interesting. This slide I got from Stephen Pope's presentation on one of the, when they were designing the new service, they were trying to figure out how much time it would take to process the publishing on the cloud. So they were based off on Bristol, and they had a data center. The closest data center that they had, I think he mentioned something, it would be like around London or South UK or something, but geographically it was really close to where they were, so we would expect the latency not to be an issue. So they were publishing like an out of the box database which has over 4,000 items or so, and on the cloud it was taking 22 minutes, right? And they were trying experimenting and see why it was taking so long for not a very big number, right? And they realized, profiling the database, that the number of calls being done to the database were over 64,000 calls because of this one by one processing that I was talking about. And the latest that they were getting, so it was around 18 milliseconds of latency of communication from the office to the data center. So they did a quick math and they figured out that 64,000 calls versus that 18 milliseconds was taking 19 minutes over just on latency. So the actual publishing was taking 3 minutes, but communication between the office and the data center was taking 19 minutes. That is total of 87% of the publishing time just on latency. This is on the closest data center, right? So they did the same experiment with other data centers across the globe, and here are the results. So North Central US, it was taking 2 hours worth of latency. West US, 2 hours and 53 minutes. East Japan, over 4 hours worth of latency, right? So they did the same experiment with the new publishing service on the new version, and instead of 4 hours, they were taking 27 seconds. Like the new publishing, instead of 19 minutes, on the UK was taking 2 seconds. That, to me, those numbers are impressive, right? To me, those numbers kind of paint a very good picture on how you can get your performance up if you're using this new service as opposed to the out of the box publishing service, right? So this is something for you to consider when you're working, when you have your clients running on cloud, which is something that is happening more often and more often. And yeah, this is not the future, this is the present, right? So yeah, this is something to take consideration. So I guess it's already clear, but it's worth mentioning. So one of the biggest benefits we get with this service is hardware usage, right? Memory processing and everything. Costs. This service is for free. You don't get to pay any new license. You don't get to pay a new server for that. You can, but you don't need to, right? So you don't have that extra cost if you want to scale your publishing. And I think I just, when you're running on Azure or AWS or whatever, when you're running on cloud, really, you do get this benefit of this chart that I just showed you in a few seconds ago. Here are some really useful links. This module is available for download on dev.sitecore.net. So you can download both the publishing service and the publishing service module. They're both available to download. If you need support from the community, you will find it on the Sitecore chat, .slack.com, on the channel publishing service. If you don't know what Sitecore chat.slack.com, you need to know it if you're working with Sitecore, because that's where the community is essentially, where you find everybody. If you want to get started, there is a very useful link here from Stephen Pope's blog, where essentially you get getting started. If you just want to see how you're going to start, you want to play with it, this is very useful. You can find the official documentation on this link. Again, I've gone through this documentation and it's really well documented. There's, on the commons, how you set up. It's really well documented. So I encourage you to take a look. And also here's the link for known issues. There actually are a few, but you can, just go here and see details. We're already running out of time here. So I guess we come to that moment of where the heartbeat goes up. Are there any questions? Just 1 second, please.
Okay, so I will make my question in a moment. Just want to make a comment that this live video will be split in two in this week, and the slides that you guys are using, please send to me so I can put available on the YouTube video as well. You have some important links there that people want to get access to. So my question is, we do have currently, when you use the normal publishing mechanism of Sitecore, you do have pipelines that you can attach code to it. For instance, we have been using one recently where we are building an XML file according from published items, and that XML file were being rebuilt on every publishment. This is just an example. How does that goes now with the new publishing service?
Right. So one thing we need to understand is that the new publishing service does run through all the publish events, like item deleted, item created, everything. So the event handlers, you still get it, but you don't get to integrate it with your custom pipelines. No, if you need to hook into any pipeline processing, really, you do get that pipeline that gets triggered at the end with the manifest results that I talked about, which you can process whatever data you need. They're sent in batches to the pipeline, so your custom processing really needs to be done like that. So yeah, not sure if that answers your question or not.
So you don't have anymore the pipeline published and remote published to attach code when items are published. You don't have that anymore.
As far as I know.
So Vinicius here. What would happen if during the publishing I lost communication with the publishing server?
What do you mean, like an end user? You're using Sitecore and you lose communication? What exactly are you talking about?
Yeah, as a content authoring, if I hit publish, it will call the publish service, right? And it will be in another server. Okay, so if it's in another server, what happens if the communication goes down?
I never tried that myself, but what I can tell you is that the publishing job will trigger it on the queue, and that's it. The publishing will take care of it, right? You as a content author uh, will still get the result that you're expecting, because really the processing is being done on the other server, right? If it's been triggered before this communication issue have been done, honestly, it's not a test that I've done that myself, but thinking on the concept and how it's being built, I cannot see why that will create any sort of issues, because the processing is being done by the publishing service, right? So unless the publishing service, you lose your communication before the queue has been triggered, I don't see why that would be an issue. No. Are there any questions online? So what Edpo really is asking here, whether you can use the publishing service for multiple Sitecore instances, right? Honestly, I don't know. I haven't gone that far to see whether that is possible or not. I think it is, but again, I would have to get back to you, to be honest. But because, yeah, I really don't know. Yeah. The- right, but the publishing service itself does not need an extra license, right? It does not. That's why it benefits from cost, because the service itself comes for free. You can install it. Of course, you have to pay your Sitecore license to run it with it, but you don't need a separate license just to have the new publishing service to run. So that will not be an issue. But that's actually a very good question, whether you can run for multiple or not. Honestly, I don't know.
If you think a little bit, of course, I'm just speculating here, but if you think a little bit that this publishing service is going to be moving data from one database to another, I guess we can extrapolate to that into the conclusion that you basically will have problems to have the same publishing service doing that for multiple Sitecore instances, because multiple Sitecore instances mean multiples multiple web databases and multiple master databases. So that may be possible.
That's, yeah, really. I'd rather not give you an answer than giving you a wrong one. So I would rather go back and see whether you can have that or not. Maybe yes, maybe no. I really don't know. Well, Not just mine. No, I'm just sharing knowledge here. Whoever wants to know that can go do your homework.
Diego will be adding the response to this when we release the video on YouTube.
Well, you want your answers? That's on your slide. Aliens. Any other any other questions? Yes, here. Uh, so Ed was asking essentially how it's been built. It's been built using Speak, right? So Speak. Now it's not Shear, it's Speak. So I don't. Right. Yes, I think you can, but like, do you really need to? I don't know. Maybe. Right. Yeah. No, you can. You can. Nothing prevents you from doing that. So okay. So we're having some Portuguese discussion here. Probably the folks online are not understanding. So essentially, he's trying to see whether we can extend the interface, the Speak interface, and to do some customization, if we will. Correct? Yeah. I wouldn't see why this would be an issue. Right. As long as you can extend it and you know what you're doing. Right. Right. Yeah, the republisher does not exist for regular authors, just for admin ones, and that's essentially a republish. That's what it's going to do. Yeah, for regular content authors, if they don't have access to the publishing dashboard and actually they're not assigned to the specific role, they will not see that publish all item. But no, only admins. Yeah, or users who do have who are associated with that role will see that publishing button. Right. All right, one more, last one.
Okay, last one. As you mentioned, publishing service has been built in .NET Core. Did you read anything related to install it on Linux?
I didn't. No, I didn't read anything per se, but that's on the original presentation that Stephen Pope did. He did actually mention that one of the reasons why they were using not NetCore is essentially because they could port in the future for other platforms other than just Windows, right? So honestly, I haven't seen anyone using on Linux per se, because normally they're folks using Sitecore have Windows running, right? So Sitecore now is having a few things built on top of NetCore. So, but that's probably something that will happen commonly in the future, right? I don't see why not. The technology is out there. So, right. All right, so this was the last one, official question on the presentation. All the other questions can be done directly to my Slack, Twitter, or contacting me personally. I'd like to thank everyone who's online who hasn't fallen asleep yet, maybe. And again, thank you very much, Ivan, for sharing your presentation. And I guess we'll talk soon. All right, thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you for having me, guys. It was a good presentation.
All right, thanks, Ivan. Appreciate it. All right, bye, guys.
Bye, everyone.